This hearing wasn't about politics, it was about proof. A member of Congress didn't just ask questions, he played videos. Videos of a U.S. Marine's mother in icy detention, videos of a landscaper beaten by masked agents, and videos of an American citizen dragged from his car and held for days, without charges. The administration says ICE is targeting the worst of the worst, but what happens when the evidence tells a very different story?
The problem is 70% of the people you've arrested have no criminal record. You're going after non-criminal immigrants, U.S. citizens, and permanent legal residents. Donna Hughes Brown, Irish citizen, green card holder, 48 years in the United States. She also happens to be the mother of a U.S. Marine, sister to a retired Army colonel. She's in ICE detention since July. She tried to come back from Ireland, arrested.
At this point in the hearing, the discussion shifts from general policy claims to real-world consequences. What you're about to see is not a summary or a talking point. It's raw footage and first-hand testimony entered directly into the congressional record. Lawmakers are no longer debating theory. They're examining evidence case by case, asking whether enforcement practices are matching the promises made to the American public. This clip is part of that record, and it's central to understanding why this hearing became so contentious.
Another case, Narciso Barranco was beaten and arrested by masked agents while working as a landscaper. He's an undocumented immigrant, 30 years in this country, not a traffic ticket. Mr. Barranco is also the father of 3 U.S. Marines. 3 Marines. You want to make a movie of people like this. A man who comes to this country, instills patriotism in his kids. They swear an oath to serve and possibly give up their life for this country. We'll play a video on this as well, please.
Masked federal agents were filmed pinning a man to the ground and repeatedly striking him in the head and neck before putting him in an unmarked car. The man in the video has been identified as Narciso Barranco and is the father of 2 active duty Marines and 1 Marine veteran. The Department of Homeland Security said an illegal alien was arrested by Border Patrol agents after he, quote, assaulted federal law enforcement, adding that Barranco, quote, swung a weed whacker directly at an agent's face. Video shared by DHS and reviewed by CNN shows Barranco running with a weed whacker, but does not show him striking officers.
I also have with us today Alex Barranco behind you, a retired Marine. That's his father. And Alex, on behalf of myself, members here, I want to thank you for your service to our country, and we also thank your brothers for serving our great country. Thank you very much.
The exchange between Congressman Lou Correa and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem highlights a deeper issue facing U.S. immigration enforcement credibility. For years, Americans have been told that immigration enforcement focuses on serious criminals, individuals who pose a clear threat to public safety. That message has shaped public opinion, voting behavior, and trust in federal agencies. But the cases presented in this hearing complicate that narrative. One of those cases involves Donna Hughes Brown, a lawful permanent resident who lived in the United States for nearly 5 decades. She is the mother of a U.S. Marine and the wife of a man who publicly said he supported tougher immigration enforcement, believing it would focus on dangerous criminals. Instead, his wife was detained over decades old minor financial offenses and remains in custody. That story alone raises a question lawmakers are increasingly asking. Are enforcement priorities being applied consistently or mechanically? The second case presented was even more disturbing. Narciso Barranco, an undocumented immigrant who lived in the U.S. for 30 years with no criminal record, was arrested while working as a landscaper. Video footage shows him being restrained and repeatedly struck by masked federal agents. The Department of Homeland Security stated that Barranco assaulted officers. However, independent video reviewed by major news outlets shows him running with landscaping equipment, but does not clearly show an attack. This is where public trust begins to fracture. When official statements conflict with widely available video evidence, Americans across the political spectrum start asking the same question: who is being held accountable? Barranco's case carries additional weight because 3 of his children served in the U.S. Marine Corps. That fact does not grant legal immunity, but it does underscore a broader theme raised in the hearing. Families deeply connected to the military and public service are still being caught in enforcement actions that appear aggressive, confusing, and at times excessive. The third example may be the most alarming. George Rui, a native-born U.S. citizen and Army veteran who served in Iraq, was stopped at an immigration checkpoint on his way to work. According to testimony, officers broke his car window, used pepper spray and tear gas, pulled him from the vehicle, and detained him for 72 hours without charges. This incident shifts the discussion beyond immigration status entirely. When a U.S. citizen can be detained without charges, it raises fundamental constitutional concerns, not about immigration policy, but about due process and civil liberties. To be clear, the hearing does not claim that immigration enforcement should stop or that laws should not be enforced. Instead, it highlights a growing concern that enforcement methods may be undermining the very legitimacy they depend on. Immigration agencies require public cooperation. They rely on trust from local communities, state governments, and even law enforcement partners. When stories like these emerge, supported by video, testimony, and first-hand accounts, that trust erodes. Another key issue raised was resource allocation. Lawmakers questioned whether focusing so heavily on non-violent immigration arrests has diverted attention from serious threats like trafficking, child exploitation, and terrorism, areas ICE was originally designed to combat. That question matters regardless of political affiliation. If enforcement resources are finite, and they are, then how they are used reflects national priorities. This hearing does not offer easy answers, but it does something just as important. It places real stories, real footage, and real consequences into the public record. Accountability does not mean rejecting enforcement. It means ensuring that enforcement is lawful, proportional, and transparent. For Americans watching, this hearing serves as a reminder that policy is not abstract. It plays out in traffic stops, workplaces, detention centers, and living rooms, often far from Washington. And as Congress continues its oversight role, one thing becomes clear. How immigration laws are enforced may ultimately matter just as much as what those laws say.